I found out I was temporary the same night my husband got his medical license. My name is Susan, and for 8 years, I thought I was building a future. Turns out, I was just paying for someone else's. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were my double shift days at Romano's. Lunch rush bleeding into dinner service, my feet screaming by hour 10. I just walked through our apartment door when Gavin intercepted me, waving that official-looking letter like it was a golden ticket. "It's here." His face was flushed, eyes bright. "Susan, it's really here." I dropped my purse and rushed over. The state medical board seal gleamed in the hallway light. Dr. Gavin Morgan, fully licensed to practice medicine in the state of New York. Oh my God. I reached for him, but he was already on his phone. Mom, it came. Yeah, today. I know. You were right about the timing." He paced away from me, his voice dropping to that particular tone he reserved for Linda. Soft, deferential, nothing like how he spoke to me anymore. I stood there in my grease-stained uniform, smelling like French fries and broken dreams, watching my husband celebrate the achievement I'd made possible. 8 years. 8 years of working doubles and triples. 8 years of telling him to focus on his studies while I handled the bills. 8 years of nodding along when Linda called me sweet in that way that really meant simple. "She wants to throw a celebration," Gavin said, finally looking at me. "This weekend. The whole family." "That's wonderful." I smiled, even though something cold was settling in my stomach. "I'll request Saturday off." His expression flickered. Just for a second. Actually, Mom was thinking immediate family only. You know how she is about her formal dinners? There it was, that familiar sting. "I'm your wife, Gavin." "Of course you are." He kissed my forehead, the kind of kiss you give a child. "It's just, you know how exhausting these things are. All her society friends, the boring medical talk. I figured you'd rather relax after your week." The thing about being dismissed is that it happens in increments, small enough that you question whether you're being sensitive, frequent enough that eventually you stop questioning and start accepting. "Sure," I said. "Whatever you think is best." He was already texting, probably Linda, as he walked toward the bedroom. I went to the kitchen and poured myself water with shaking hands. On the counter sat the stack of mail I'd been ignoring, credit card statements, utility bills, a reminder from the bursar's office about Gavin's final semester payment. All handled through my private trust fund, all carefully documented as loans, though Gavin had never bothered to read the fine print when he signed those papers. My phone buzzed. Paris, my sister. "Did he get it?" she asked without preamble. "He got it." "And? Are we celebrating? Please tell me you're celebrating." "There's a party this weekend. Family only." Silence. Then, "Susan, please tell me you're not letting them." "I'm tired, Paris. Can we talk tomorrow?" "You're always tired. You're always working. And for what? So that man and his horrible mother can—" "Tomorrow," I repeated, and hung up. I knew what she'd say because she'd been saying it for years, that I was being used, that Linda had been planning this from the beginning, that the way Gavin looked at me had changed the moment he got accepted to medical school, like I'd transformed from girlfriend to stepping stone. But Paris didn't understand. I had a plan, too. Saturday came. I wasn't invited, but I showed up anyway. Linda's townhouse in the Upper East Side, paid for by her late husband's hedge fund money. The kind of place where even the doorman looked down on you. I wore my best dress, still Target but clean, and carried a bottle of wine I'd splurged on. Linda answered the door herself, her smile freezing when she saw me. "Susan, what a surprise." "I couldn't miss celebrating my husband's achievement," I said sweetly. "Not after everything we've sacrificed together." She stepped aside, but I caught her whisper to someone inside. She actually came. The party was exactly what Gavin had described. Society friends, medical colleagues, people who looked at my dress and immediately calculated its price point. I smiled through it all, accepting congratulations meant for Gavin, nodding along to Linda's stories about her boy's dedication. Then I heard it. I was coming back from the bathroom when Linda's voice drifted from the study, door slightly ajar. "Now we can finally ditch the waitress," laughter followed. Not just Linda's, Gavin's too. I pressed myself against the hallway wall, heart hammering. "Mother, keep your voice down." But he was still laughing. "Oh, please. Everyone here knows the arrangement. Poor girl probably thinks she's about to become a doctor's wife." Linda's voice dripped with amusement. "As if we let that happen." I walked back to the party, poured myself champagne, smiled at strangers. My hands didn't shake, not once. An hour later, Gavin found me on the balcony. "Having fun?" he asked. "Absolutely." I turned to face him. I was actually thinking of making a toast. About us. About sacrifice. Something crossed his face. Panic, maybe. "Actually, Susan, we need to talk." "Perfect. Let's talk inside, in front of everyone." "No." He grabbed my arm. Not hard, but firm. "Here. Now." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Cream-colored, expensive, the kind Linda probably picked out herself. "What's this?" "Just open it." My fingers were steady as I pulled out the papers. Divorce petition, irreconcilable differences, division of assets, laughable, since we had nothing in joint accounts. Everything had been carefully kept separate, at Linda's insistence years ago. To protect Gavin's future, she'd said. Clipped to the petition was a check, $5,000. "For your troubles," Gavin said quietly. "I know this seems sudden, but—" "Sudden?" I looked up at him. "How long have you been planning this?" "Susan, please don't make a scene." "A scene." I laughed, and it sounded foreign even to me. "How much is appropriate?" "For 8 years?" "You're being dramatic. We both knew this wasn't forever. You're not— We're from different worlds." "Different worlds," I repeated. "Is that what Linda told you to say?" He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "She helped me see things clearly. You're a wonderful person, but I need someone who fits my life now. Someone who understands the medical community, someone who didn't watch you cry through organic chemistry, who didn't hold you when you failed your first practical exam." "That's not fair." "You're right." I folded the check and tucked it into his jacket pocket. "Nothing about this is fair." I walked back inside. Linda was holding court near the fireplace, surrounded by her friends. She saw me approaching and her smile turned predatory. "Susan, darling, are you leaving? So early?" "Actually, I wanted to thank you." I kept my voice light, conversational, "for teaching me such an important lesson." Her eyes narrowed. "Oh? About temporary arrangements. About knowing your worth." I looked around at the assembled guests. "About documentation." "I'm not sure what you mean." "Of course you don't." I pulled out my phone. "Excuse me one moment." I stepped into the hallway and dialed. He answered on the second ring. "Evan?" "It's Susan." "Remember that favor you said you owed me?" "Susan Evans?" His voice was surprised but warm. "It's been what, 6 years?" "7. Listen, I need a lawyer. Tonight?" "Are you still practicing?" "Corporate law, mostly, but what's going on?" "Remember those trust documents I had you review back in college? The educational loan structures?" A pause. "The ones for your hypothetical future husband's medical school?" "Not hypothetical anymore. I need you to activate Clause 19. Immediate service." "Jesus, Susan, you actually did it? You actually married someone and funded their entire— Can you do it or not?" "I'm 40 minutes away. Text me the address." "Make it 20. And Evan, bring your most intimidating briefcase." I hung up and went back to the party. Gavin was talking to his medical school friends, probably already rewriting history to exclude me from it. Linda was laughing at something. her hand on some colleague's arm. I picked up a fresh glass of champagne and waited. 19 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Linda frowned. We're not expecting anyone else. The housekeeper opened the door. Evan stood there in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, leather briefcase in hand, looking every inch the Manhattan lawyer he'd become. Good evening. I'm looking for Gavin Morgan and Linda Morgan. I have documents requiring immediate signature. Linda's face went pale. I'm sorry. Who are you? Evan smiled. It wasn't friendly. I'm Susan's attorney, and we need to discuss a rather substantial outstanding debt. He walked past the housekeeper, past Linda's sputtering protests, and stopped directly in front of the Gavin. Dr. Morgan, congratulations on your medical license. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. You're being served. The room went silent. Gavin took the papers with shaking hands. What is this? An invoice, Evan said calmly. For educational loans, totaling $482,000, plus interest, due immediately. The color drained from Gavin's face as he flipped through the pages. This is insane. Susan, what are you— Every tuition payment, Evan continued, pulling out additional documents. Every rent check, textbooks, lab fees, board exam prep courses, living expenses, all documented, all signed, all legally binding loans from a private educational trust. Linda snatched the papers from Gavin's hands. This is ridiculous. Susan's a waitress. She doesn't have— The Evans Family Trust, established 1987. Evan's voice cut through her protest like a scalpel. Current assets approximately $3.2 million. Susan is the sole beneficiary as of her 23rd birthday. You could have heard a pin drop. That's impossible, Linda whispered. It's very possible and very real. Evan pulled out another folder. Here's the loan agreement Gavin signed before his first semester. Page 3, paragraph 2. All funds disbursed are conditional loans to be repaid upon completion of education or dissolution of marriage, whichever comes first. Gavin's hands were shaking. I didn't read— You signed it, I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. You were so excited about getting accepted. I told you to read everything carefully. You said you trusted me. Susan, please. His voice cracked. We can work this out. I made a mistake. Mother, tell her— Don't you dare! Linda's face was red now, her composure cracking. This is extortion. We'll fight this. We'll— Fight what? Evan's smile was razor sharp. A legal contract? Signed documentation? 8 years of bank records showing every single transfer from Susan's trust to your son's accounts? He pulled out yet another document. Oh, and this is my favorite part. The Joint Marital Assets Clause. What clause? Gavin's voice was barely a whisper. Any assets acquired during the marriage using loan funds are subject to immediate foreclosure upon loan default. That includes your car, your medical equipment, your laptop, and— Evan paused for effect. Any signing bonuses or employment contracts secured using credentials obtained through said loan funds. You can't do this, Linda hissed. Actually, Mrs. Morgan, we already have, as of— Evan checked his watch. 17 minutes ago, we filed a legal hold on all of Dr. Morgan's accounts pending debt resolution. The bank should be calling any moment now. As if on cue, Gavin's phone rang. He stared at it like it was a snake. Answer it, Linda commanded. He did. His face went from white to green. Yes, I understand, but there must be some mistake. I need access to— Hello? The phone slipped from his hand. They froze everything, he said. My accounts, my credit cards, everything. One of the guests cleared their throat. Perhaps we should give you some privacy. No. I spoke up, my voice steady. Stay, please. I want witnesses. Linda whirled on me. You vindictive little— Careful, Evan warned. Anything you say right now can and will be used in court. Court? Gavin looked like he might be sick. Susan, please. I love you. I was confused. Mother was pushing me and Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. I walked over to him, close enough to see the panic in his eyes. The same eyes that used to look at me like I was everything. Before medical school. Before Linda's poison took root. Before I became temporary. You handed me a check for $5,000, I said softly, for my troubles. 8 years. $482,000. And you thought $5,000 was generous. I didn't know you had money. You never told me. You never asked. You just assumed. Poor little waitress. So grateful to be married to a future doctor. I stepped back. You know what the saddest part is? I would have given it to you. All of it. If you'd just been honest. If you just loved me. I do love you. No. I shook my head. You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. Linda found her voice again. This is absurd. We'll settle. Name your price. My price? I looked at her. You called me temporary. You planned this. You coached him on how to leave me with nothing. That's not... I have emails, Linda. Lots of them. Her face went slack. Evan closed his briefcase with a decisive click. You have 72 hours to respond to the invoice. After that, we proceed with full legal action, including asset seizure and public filing, which means every hospital, every colleague, every medical board in the state will know exactly how Dr. Morgan funded his education. He handed me his arm. Susan, shall we? I picked up my champagne glass, drained it, and set it carefully on Linda's antique table. Enjoy your party, I said. Evan drove me to a hotel. Not my apartment. He insisted I needed space, and he was right. The moment the door closed behind us, my legs gave out. Easy. He caught me, guided me to the bed. Breathe, Susan. Just breathe. I can't believe I just did that. You were magnificent. He poured water from the minibar. Drink this. My phone started ringing. Gavin. I declined. It rang again immediately. Want me to turn it off? Evan asked. No, let him panic. It rang 17 more times before he gave up. Then the text started. Susan, please. We need to talk. This is crazy. I'll fix this. Mother didn't mean those things. I was going to tell you differently. Please, answer. I set the phone face down on the nightstand. You should rest, Evan said. I'll be in the adjoining room if you need anything. Evan, why are you helping me? He paused at the door. Because 7 years ago, you helped me study for the bar exam when everyone else had given up on me. Because you're a good person who got screwed over by people who should have cherished you. He smiled sadly. And because I always wondered what would have happened if I hadn't been such an idiot and let you go. He left before I could respond. I didn't sleep. At 6 a.m., Paris called. Holy shit, Susan. It's all over social media. Someone at that party posted everything. You're trending on Twitter. What? Asked temporary wife. People are losing their minds. The story's everywhere. Woman funds husband's medical school. He divorces her at his graduation party. She serves him with the $500,000 invoice. You're a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just finally standing up for yourself. Yeah, you are. Paris's voice softened. How are you really? Honestly, I don't know. Come to my place. We'll order takeout, drink wine, and you can tell me everything. I can't. I need to. My phone beeped. Another call coming through. Danny, Gavin's med school friend. Paris, I have to go. Call me later. Love you. I switched over. Danny? Susan, Jesus Christ, what the hell happened? Gavin just showed up at my apartment at 5 a.m, completely losing it. Did he tell you what he did? He said you're trying to ruin him over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I laughed bitterly. Is that what he called it? Look, I don't know the details, but Gavin's my friend. If there's a way to work this out. Danny, did you know about Linda's plan? Silence. Danny, I heard things, he admitted quietly. At the end of fourth year, Linda talking about how Gavin needed to upgrade once he had his license. I thought she was just being her usual snobby self. I didn't think Gavin would actually. But you didn't warn me? I'm sorry, I should have. I didn't think he'd go through with it. Well, he did, and now he's dealing with the consequences. Susan, he's talking about losing his hospital position. The legal hold on his accounts means he can't pay his malpractice insurance. Without that, he can't practice. Good. Susan, he handed me $5,000, Danny, for 8 years of my life, for paying every single bill while he studied, for believing in him when no one else did. My voice cracked. He called me temporary. I know, and that's unforgivable. But destroying his career, I'm not destroying anything. I'm collecting what I'm owed. I hung up. An hour later, there was a knock on my door. I checked the peephole. Elisa, a mutual friend from our early dating days. Susan, I know you're in there. The front desk told me. I opened the door. Thank God. She pushed past me. We need to talk. If you're here to defend Gavin. I'm not. She sat down heavily. I'm here to tell you the truth. About Sarah. My stomach dropped. Who's Sarah? The nurse from his rotation at Mount Sinai. They've been seeing each other for 6 months. The room tilted. Susan, sit down. 6 months? I found out 2 weeks ago. I was going to tell you, but I didn't know how. And then this whole thing exploded and she pulled out her phone. I have screenshots, text messages. He moved in with her 3 days ago. 3 days ago? But the divorce papers were dated last week. Susan, he'd already left you before that party. He just hadn't told you yet. She showed me the messages. Gavin and Sarah planning their future. Talking about how it's almost over and just a few more days. Linda's name appeared frequently, coaching him on timing, on strategy. One message made my blood run cold. Once he's licensed, end it. She's fulfilled her purpose. The girl has nothing, no family money, no connections. She won't fight back. It was from Linda to Gavin, dated 8 months ago. They planned this, I whispered, from the beginning. Elisa squeezed my hand. I'm so sorry. I looked at her. Do you have more? More messages? More proof? Everything. I downloaded it all before Sarah could delete it. Send it to me. Send everything. By noon, I had everything. Screenshots, emails, text messages, a complete timeline of betrayal. I forwarded it all to Evan, then called Mohammed, my financial advisor. Susan, I've been trying to reach you. The Morgan situation is all over the news. I need you to do something for me. Can you freeze Gavin's pending hospital contract? The signing bonus? That might be tricky. It's not technically in his possession yet, but it was negotiated during our marriage, using credentials funded by my trust. Evan said that makes it fair game. Mohammed was quiet for a moment. You're absolutely right. I'll file the paperwork within the hour. But Susan, there's something you should know. I've been managing your family's trust for 15 years. I knew your grandmother. Okay? She added a clause specifically for situations like this. Protection against financial exploitation in marriage. She was very clear about her intentions. What are you saying? I'm saying your grandmother saw this coming. Not specifically, but she knew what could happen to women with money who fall in love with the wrong people. She made sure you'd be protected. He paused. She'd be proud of you right now. My throat tightened. Thank you, Mohammed. There's more. I did some digging into Linda's finances. Would you like to know what I found? Tell me. She's broke. The townhouse is mortgaged to the hilt. Her late husband's hedge fund money? Gone. Bad investments, expensive lifestyle. She's been living on credit for 3 years. So Gavin was her retirement plan. Exactly. A successful doctor's son, married to someone she could control and eventually discard. She needed him to marry someone without resources, someone who wouldn't fight back when they cut her loose. But I do have resources. Yes, you do. And now she knows it. I thanked him and hung up. My phone immediately rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Susan? It's Danny again. Don't hang up. What do you want? I'm at a coffee shop near your hotel. Please, just give me 10 minutes. Against my better judgment, I agreed. He was waiting at a corner table, looking exhausted. 2 cups of coffee sat in front of him. I ordered you a latte. Extra shot, no sugar. You still drink it that way? I sat down but didn't touch the coffee. Talk? Gavin's falling apart. He's been calling everyone from med school, trying to borrow money. No one will help him. Good. Susan, I'm not here to beg for him. I'm here because you deserve to know everything. He pulled out his phone. Linda did this before. What? Gavin's older brother, Marcus. He was engaged to a girl named Jennifer about 10 years ago. Working class family, put herself through nursing school. Linda convinced Marcus she was using him for his money, which was ironic since Linda was the one actually broke. What happened? Marcus broke it off right before the wedding. Jennifer was devastated. 6 months later, Marcus married someone Linda approved of, a doctor's daughter with family money. The marriage lasted 2 years before she divorced him and took half of everything. Why are you telling me this? Because Linda's pattern is manipulation. She finds the flaw, exploits it, and destroys people to get what she wants. She saw you as an obstacle to Gavin's success. She probably started working on him the moment he got into medical school. You think I didn't know that? I think you knew, but I don't think you know how deep it goes. He slid his phone across the table. I recorded Linda last night. After you left, she was drunk and angry. I pressed play. Linda's voice, slurred but venomous. That little bitch thinks she's won? I made her. I found her working in that pathetic restaurant. Convinced Gavin she was perfect. Young, naive, grateful. Someone who'd pay for everything and disappear when told, this is my life's work, and some waitress with a trust fund isn't going to ruin it. Another voice, a man I didn't recognize. Linda, maybe you should... Should what? Feel guilty? She was a financial extraction project from day one. Gavin knew it. I told him exactly what to do. Make her feel special. Let her play wife, take everything she'd give, then trade up. It's not personal. It's strategy. The recording ended. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking. She admitted it, I whispered. She admitted everything. And she's too arrogant to realize I was recording. Danny leaned forward. Susan, I'm giving this to you because what she did is evil. Gavin's my friend, but he made his choice. You didn't deserve any of this. Why now? Why help me now? Because I watched you work yourself to exhaustion for 8 years. I watched you bring Gavin dinner during study sessions, quiz him on anatomy, hold him when he wanted to quit. You loved him, really loved him. His voice cracked. And they used that. They weaponized your love. That's unforgivable. I picked up the phone. Can I keep this? It's yours. Do whatever you want with it. Danny, when this is over, and it will be over, Gavin's going to blame you. I know. He stood up. But some things are more important than friendship, like doing the right thing. He left. I sat there, coffee growing cold, Linda's words echoing in my head. Financial extraction project. My phone buzzed. Evan. We need to meet. Now. Linda's attorney just called. Evan's office was all glass and steel overlooking Manhattan. I felt out of place in my jeans and sweater, but he didn't seem to notice. They hired Patricia Vance, he said, closing the door. She's expensive and ruthless. They're going on the offensive. Let me guess. I'm the gold digger? Worse. They're claiming you manipulated Gavin into signing documents he didn't understand, that you deliberately hid your wealth to create a power imbalance, that this is financial abuse. I laughed. actually laughed. Financial abuse? I paid for everything. I know, but they're spinning it as entrapment. Poor medical student, seduced by older woman with hidden money, tricked into signing predatory loan documents. I'm 2 years younger than him. Facts don't matter when you're building a narrative. Evans sat on the edge of his desk. They're also threatening to go to the media, paint you as a vindictive ex-wife trying to destroy a promising young doctor's career. They're too late. I pulled out my phone and showed him the recording Danny had given me. Listen to this. His expression darkened as Linda's voice filled the room. When it finished, he was quiet for a long moment. This changes everything, he said finally. With this, we don't just win. We obliterate them. No? He looked surprised. No? I want to do this right. Legally, publicly, completely. I stood up and walked to the window. Linda thinks she can control the narrative. Let's give her a story she can't spin. What are you thinking? I want to go to the press, not with attacks or accusations, with facts, documentation, every receipt, every bank transfer, every signed agreement. Let people see exactly what happened. Susan, that's risky. Once it's public, there's no taking it back. Good. I'm done hiding. I turned to face him. Can you help me or not? He smiled. I know a journalist, Sarah Kim at the Times. She specializes in financial exploitation cases. If anyone can tell this story right, it's her. Set it up. 2 days later, I sat across from Sarah in a quiet cafe. She was younger than I expected, sharp-eyed and direct. I've seen the social media posts, she said, pulling out a recorder. But I need to hear it from you. Everything, and I need proof. I spent 3 hours walking her through it all. The trust fund, the loan agreements, the 8 years of payments, Linda's manipulation, the divorce papers and the $5,000 check, the recording, the text messages with Sarah. Sarah didn't interrupt. She just listened, occasionally making notes, her expression growing darker. When I finished, she sat back. This is bigger than a divorce story. This is about class, exploitation, and what happens when people mistake kindness for weakness. Will you write it? On one condition. You let me verify everything. Every document, every transaction, every claim. I won't publish anything I can't prove. Done. The article ran 4 days later. Front page of the Metro section, with a follow-up online that went viral within hours. The real cost of medical school, how one woman funded her husband's dream and was called temporary for it. Sarah had been thorough. She'd interviewed Danny, Elisa, even some of Gavin's former classmates who confirmed Linda's pattern of manipulation. She'd gotten statements from the bank, verified the trust documents, and included excerpts from Linda's recording. The response was immediate and overwhelming. My phone exploded with messages. Strangers offering support. Women sharing their own stories of being used and discarded. Reporters requesting interviews. But the call I was waiting for came from Evan. Mount Sinai pulled Gavin's contract, he said. They cited ethical concerns and reputational risk. 2 other hospitals followed suit within the hour. What about Linda? Better. The IRS received an anonymous tip about unreported income and fraudulent tax filings. They're opening a full audit. Anonymous tip? Very anonymous. I could hear the smile in his voice. Also, the medical board received a formal complaint about Gavin's conduct. Using fraudulently obtained funds to secure medical credentials, they're launching an investigation. Will they revoke his license? Probably not, but it'll be on his record. Every hospital, every practice will see it when they run his background check. My phone buzzed. Paris. Turn on channel 7. Now. I switched on the TV in Evan's office. A news anchor was interviewing Patricia Vance, Linda's attorney. My clients are victims of a calculated smear campaign, Patricia was saying. Dr. Morgan is a dedicated physician being destroyed by a bitter ex-wife who... The anchor cut her off. Ms. Vance, We've seen the loan documents. We've heard the recording of Mrs. Morgan admitting this was a financial extraction project. How do you respond to that?" Patricia's smile faltered. "That recording was obtained illegally. It was recorded at a private party by a guest. That's legal in New York. And it directly contradicts your claim that your clients are victims. The context is being manipulated. The context is that your client admitted to orchestrating a marriage for financial gain, then discarding the woman who funded her son's education. That's not manipulation. That's evidence." Patricia stood up and removed her microphone. "This interview is over." The anchor turned to the camera. "Patricia Vance, attorney for the Morgan family, has just walked out of our studio. We'll continue following this developing story." Evan muted the TV. "They're drowning, Susan, and they're taking everyone down with them." My phone rang. "Unknown number." I answered. "Susan?" Gavin's voice was broken. "Please, we need to talk. Just you and me. No lawyers, no press. Please." I looked at Evan. He shook his head. "I'll meet you," I said. "Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the coffee shop where you proposed. Thank you. Thank you so much. I can explain everything." I hung up. "Susan, that's not a good idea," Evan warned. "I know, but I need to hear what he has to say. I need to look him in the eye one more time. Then I'm coming with you." "No, this is something I have to do alone." The coffee shop looked exactly the same. Same corner booth where Gavin had gotten down on one knee 9 years ago. Same barista who'd clapped when I said yes. Same menu board with terrible puns about espresso. Everything the same except us. Gavin was already there, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His suit was wrinkled, his hair uncombed. When he saw me, he stood up so fast he knocked over his coffee. "Susan, thank God! I thought you wouldn't come." I sat down across from him, didn't help him clean up the spill. "You have 20 minutes, I said. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I was weak and stupid, and I let Mother manipulate me into thinking—" "Stop, don't blame Linda. You're a grown man. You made choices. You're right, you're absolutely right." He reached for my hand. I pulled away. I was scared. Scared of being poor forever. Scared of disappointing Mother. Scared that I wasn't good enough for you. Not good enough for me. You were always so capable, so strong. You handled everything while I was falling apart during exams. I felt like a failure. "So you decided to become one?" He flinched. "I know how this looks. But I never stopped loving you. You moved in with Sarah 6 months ago." His face went white. "That's not. It wasn't like that. She was just a nurse, younger, more impressed by the white coat." I leaned forward. "Did you practice that speech? The one about being confused and manipulated? Or did Linda write it for you? Please don't do this. Don't be cruel." "Cruel?" My voice rose. The barista glanced over. I lowered it. "You handed me $5,000 for 8 years of my life. You called me temporary and I'm being cruel?" I panicked. The divorce was Mother's idea, but I went along with it because I'm a coward. I know that now, but we can fix this. We can start over. Start over. Yes, I'll pay you back. Every penny. It'll take time, but I will. And we can rebuild. Go to counseling. Make it work. Gavin, you don't have any money. You don't have a job. You don't have anything. I'll get another position. Somewhere smaller. Outside the city. We can move. Start fresh where no one knows. I don't want to start fresh with you." He looked like I'd slapped him. "But you loved me." "I know you did." "I loved who I thought you were. The man who cried when he got his acceptance letter. Who wanted to help people. Who said we were a team." I stood up. "That man doesn't exist. Maybe he never did." "Susan, wait, please." He grabbed my arm. "If you do this, if you take everything, I'll have nothing. My career is over. My reputation is destroyed. I'll lose my license. You should have thought of that before. Is this revenge? Is that what this is? You want to watch me suffer? No, Gavin. I want justice. There's a difference. Justice? He laughed bitterly. You're destroying my life over money. Money you don't even need. This was never about the money. Then what? What do you want from me? I looked at him, really looked at him. This man I'd loved, supported, believed in. This stranger wearing his face. I want you to understand what you did. I want you to know that actions have consequences, that you can't use people and walk away clean. I pulled my arm free. I want you to remember every single day that you had someone who loved you unconditionally and you threw it away for nothing. Susan, but mostly, I want you to know that I'm going to be fine. Better than fine. I'm going to be happy. And you're going to spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been if you'd just been a decent human being. I turned to leave. I'll fight this, he called after me. I'll take it to court. I'll tell everyone you're a liar. I stopped, turned back. Go ahead. Tell them. The woman with 8 years of documentation, bank records, signed contracts, and a recording of your mother admitting the whole thing is a liar. See how that works out for you. You've already won. Why are you still twisting the knife? I'm not twisting anything. I'm just done protecting you from yourself. I walked out. He didn't follow. Outside, Evan was waiting by his car. How'd it go? He offered to pay me back and start over. Jesus, the audacity. He doesn't get it. He still thinks this is about money or revenge. He doesn't understand that some things, once broken, can't be fixed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Patricia Vance. My clients are prepared to offer $300,000 immediate settlement if you agree to sign an NDA and cease all media contact. This is a one-time offer. I showed it to Evan. That's actually a decent offer, he said carefully. You get most of your money back. Avoid a lengthy court battle. No, Susan, I don't want their settlement. I don't want their money. I want the truth on record. I want every hospital, every colleague, every future patient to know exactly who Gavin is. Evan studied my face. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He smiled. Then let's finish this. I texted back. See you in court. Within an hour, Gavin released a public statement. It was on every news site, every social media platform. A video of him looking directly at the camera, eyes red. I want to apologize to my ex-wife, Susan. She supported me through medical school, and I repaid her kindness with betrayal. I was wrong. I was manipulated by family, but that's no excuse. I take full responsibility for my actions. Susan, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. You deserved better. Paris called immediately. Did you see it? I saw it. He's trying to salvage his reputation. I know. Are you okay? I watched the video again. Gavin's performance was almost convincing. Almost. Yeah, I said. I really am. The settlement hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Same day of the week I'd found out I was temporary. I wore a navy suit, not Target this time. Paris had taken me shopping, insisted I look like the woman I actually was instead of the one I'd been pretending to be. You're not hiding anymore, she'd said, zipping me into the jacket. Own it. The courthouse was smaller than I expected. Gavin sat with Patricia at one table, Linda beside him looking like she'd aged 10 years. Evan and I took the other. The judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes, reviewed the documents in silence. The room was so quiet I could hear Linda's breathing. Quick and shallow. This is highly unusual, the judge said finally. Mrs. Evans, you're declining the settlement offer? Yes, Your Honor. You understand that proceeding to trial could take months? That the legal fees alone? I understand. I want this on public record. The judge looked at Patricia. Counselor, Does your client wish to make a statement? Patricia whispered something to Gavin. He shook his head. No, Your Honor. We maintained that the loan agreements were signed under duress, and I've reviewed the contracts. They're ironclad. The judge turned to Linda. Mrs. Morgan, I've also listened to the recording submitted as evidence. Do you deny making those statements? Linda's lawyer, a nervous man who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else, stood up. My client invokes her Fifth Amendment right. This is a civil proceeding, counselor. She can invoke all she wants, but the recording speaks for itself. The judge set down her papers. Here's what's going to happen. Dr. Morgan will repay the full amount of $482,000 plus interest and legal fees within 5 years. His wages will be garnished at 40% until the debt is satisfied. Mrs. Morgan will be held jointly liable for 30% of the total as a co-conspirator in the fraudulent scheme. Your Honor, Patricia started. I'm not finished. Additionally, I'm ordering both defendants to attend financial counseling and ethics courses. Dr. Morgan, you're fortunate the medical board hasn't revoked your license. Don't give them a reason to reconsider. Gavin's head dropped. Mrs. Evans, is there anything else you'd like to add? I stood up, looked at Gavin, then Linda. I paid for your dream, I said quietly. Every single penny, every sacrifice, every double shift. I believed in you when no one else did, and you called me temporary. Linda opened her mouth. The judge held up a hand. Let her finish. I don't need your apology. I don't need your money. Not really. What I needed was for you to see me as a person instead of a stepping stone. I picked up my bag. You taught me something valuable, though. That love without respect is worthless. That kindness without boundaries is just exploitation waiting to happen. So thank you for that lesson. It was expensive, but worth every penny. The judge banged her gavel. Court is adjourned. Outside, reporters were waiting. Cameras, microphones, shouted questions. Evans started to guide me past them, but I stopped. I'll make one statement, I said. The crowd quieted. To anyone who's ever been called temporary, who's ever been used and discarded, who's ever wondered if they were crazy for feeling hurt, you're not. Your feelings are valid. Your worth isn't determined by how someone else treats you. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just refusing to let them get away with it. A reporter called out, "What's next for you, Susan?" Living my life. On my terms. Paris was waiting by Evan's car, holding 2 coffee cups. Oh, figured you'd need this. I took it gratefully. How'd you know I'd be done now? Because you're you. Efficient, thorough, and done taking anyone's garbage. She hugged me tight. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to. Evan's phone rang. He answered, listened, then smiled. That was Mohammed. The IRS audit found $340,000 in unreported income and fraudulent deductions. Linda's facing criminal charges. Karma works fast, Paris said. Sometimes. I looked back at the courthouse. Gavin was standing on the steps alone. Linda had already left, probably to meet with her criminal attorney. He looked lost. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something. Not love, not even pity. Just acknowledgement that we'd both lost something, even if what he'd lost was his own fault. Then I got in the car. Where to? Evan asked. My apartment. I need to pack. Going somewhere? Paris of Nice. I've always wanted to see it. Then maybe Barcelona or Tokyo. Haven't decided yet. Sounds amazing. Come with me. He looked surprised. Susan, as friends, for now. No pressure, no expectations. Just 2 people who've known each other forever. Seeing the world. I smiled. Unless you have a better offer. I'd need to clear my schedule. So clear it. Paris leaned forward from the back seat. Do it, Evan. She needs someone who isn't me telling her she's amazing. You are amazing, he said, looking at me. I know. I'm just starting to believe it. We drove through the city, past the restaurant where I'd worked for 8 years, past the apartment Gavin and I had shared, past all the places that used to define me. My phone buzzed. A message from Danny. Gavin asked me to tell you he's taking a position in rural Montana. Starting over. He wanted you to know he's sorry. Really sorry. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. You okay? Evan asked. Yeah. I rolled down the window, let the spring air hit my face. You know what's funny? I thought this would feel different, like triumph or vindication or something big, and it just feels like freedom. Paris reached forward and squeezed my shoulder. That's because it is, babe. That's exactly what it is. I pulled out my old waitress uniform from my bag. I'd grabbed it from my apartment that morning, held it for a moment, remembering the woman who'd worn it, who'd believed that love and sacrifice were enough, who'd learned the hard way that they weren't. Pull over, I said. Evan stopped at a donation bin. I got out, folded the uniform carefully, and dropped it inside. Behind me, Paris started clapping. Then Evan joined in. I turned around, laughing. It's just a uniform. It's not, Paris said. It's everything you're leaving behind. She was right. I got back in the car, and we drove toward whatever came next. No more double shifts, no more hiding, no more being temporary. Just me, finally permanent in my own life.
Immersed in the tranquil sanctuary of my library, I was lost among centuries-old tomes when my brother Walter's voice unexpectedly pierced the silence. Still burying yourself in these old books, Melissa? Don't you ever tire of missing out on life? His tone, a blend of amusement and criticism, echoed around the secluded rare book section. Looking up, I saw him casually leaning against a bookshelf. Dressed sharply in a designer suit, he stood in stark contrast to my simple librarian outfit. His familiar smirk, unchanged since our childhood, seemed to taunt me silently, an embodiment of his perpetual arrogance. "Hello, Walter." I responded with a composed tone, carefully placing the antique book back into its protective case. "I didn't expect to find you here." "He sent me to check on you," he continued, straightening up. "Mom's worried you'll make a scene at their anniversary party tonight." Walter scanned the library with evident disdain. A librarian in the family? Dad's still trying to explain that to his friends at the club. "I'm Melissa Thompson, the 36-year-old head librarian at the city's central library. To my family, whose wealth spans generations, my career choice remains a source of discomfort. Little do they know, my quiet life among the books conceals more than they could imagine." "I'll be there," I assured him, standing tall. "And I'll dress appropriately." "Make sure you do," he replied, adjusting his shiny new Rolex. "It's a big night. I'll be announcing my latest business acquisition. Thompson Industries is now a major conglomerate." "That's wonderful, Walter." "Congratulations," I said, managing a neutral expression despite the clenching of my fists. "Thanks," he replied, his tone devoid of genuine warmth. "You know, there's still time for you to join the real world. Our corporate library could use someone like you. At least then you'd be doing something worthwhile." His condescending remark about my knowledge couldn't dampen my spirits. Smiling, I thought of the encrypted laptop secured in my office and the secret meetings I held under an alias. "I'm quite happy where I am," I told him firmly. He shrugged, already disinterested, and reminded me, "Remember, 6 o'clock sharp. And try not to bring any books this time." After he left, I waited a few minutes before returning to my office. It appeared typical for a librarian's workspace, but hidden within were the latest security systems and a high-powered, custom-built computer. Locking the door, I booted up my laptop and connected to a secure server. Immediately, video calls from Osaka, Paris, and Boston awaited. "Good morning, Miss Thompson," greeted my assistant through the clear connection. "The Lawrence deal is ready for final review." "Thank you, Lauren," I responded, reviewing the documents on my screen. Has legal finalized their assessment? Yes, the terms are solid. We're ready to proceed when you are. Checking my watch, I noted there were still 6 hours until my parents' anniversary celebration. Schedule the signing for tomorrow morning, Lauren. And ensure everything is set for the announcement. Already done, she confirmed, though her voice held a hint of hesitation. But are you sure about the timing? Thinking of Walter's smug expression and the years of his dismissive attitude, I felt a resolve harden within me. Tonight, I'd not only celebrate my parents' anniversary, but I'd also be stepping out of the shadows, ready to reveal the full extent of my double life. Absolutely. Tomorrow morning will work perfectly, I affirmed confidently after concluding the call. Leaning back in my office chair, I reflected on the empire I had stealthily constructed. Thompson Global Partners, which bore no connection to my brother Walter's Thompson Industries, had quietly become one of the world's leading private equity firms. Operating under the radar through a network of shell companies and discreet investments, we had masked our true scale from the public eye. For the past 8 years, I balanced this secret with my day job as a librarian, a role I genuinely cherished for its proximity to books and knowledge, yet it also served as the perfect disguise. Who would ever suspect a mild-mannered librarian of wielding immense power in global finance? My phone vibrated with a message from my mother. Don't forget to style your hair, dear. The Hugheses will be there tonight. The Hugheses, another venerable family my parents aimed to impress. I replied with a brief acknowledgement and started to prepare for the evening. My schedule included a hair appointment and a fitting for the elegant dress I had purchased for the occasion. I was not one to flaunt my wealth openly, but I knew how to assume the role when necessary. Arriving at the salon, which was conveniently empty, another benefit of owning the building and having a private standing appointment, Emma, my stylist who was in on my secret, greeted me warmly. The usual today? She asked. Something a bit more formal. Family event, I replied. As she began her work, I caught up on emails via a secure phone. The Lawrence acquisition was progressing smoothly. By tomorrow, Thompson Global Partners would secure ownership of a major Asian tech manufacturer, a target my brother had unsuccessfully tried to acquire for months. Emma, making conversation, mentioned, "Your brother was here earlier, bragging about buying a big company."
He's trying to buy it.
There's a difference, I responded with a subtle smile. Her glance met mine in the mirror. Let's just say tomorrow's newspapers will be quite interesting. 4 hours later, I evaluated my reflection at home. The once plain librarian had transformed into a figure who could seamlessly blend into any high society gathering. My dress, a refined deep blue Valentino tailored to perfection, struck the right balance of elegance without ostentation. My jewelry was understated yet luxurious, typical of the old money aesthetic. More importantly, I looked exactly as my family would hope, their bookish daughter, making an earnest effort to fit in. Another text came in, this time from Lauren. Everything's set for tomorrow. Are you sure you don't want to reveal the news tonight? No, I typed back. Let them enjoy the party. Tomorrow will be soon enough. As I arrived at the brightly lit Thompson family estate, luxury cars lined the driveway, a testament to the generations of wealth gathered there. I pulled up in my modest Audi, another deliberate choice, classy yet unassuming enough not to stir questions about a librarian's salary. Roy, our family's longtime butler, welcomed me at the door. Your parents are in the main hall, he informed me. As I approached, the sounds of the party grew clearer. The sophisticated murmur of conversation, the clinking of fine crystal, and the soft melodies of a string quartet filled the air. This was the world of my parents, a world from which I had chosen to step away, at least in the public eye. My mother's voice rang out as I entered. Melissa, darling, you look presentable. Coming from her, it was high praise indeed. Hannah Thompson, my mother, had never truly forgiven me for choosing a life among books over the family business. Tonight, however, I was ready to play the part, blending my two worlds together before revealing the full scope of my secret life. I had made an effort to look my best for the evening. Happy anniversary, Mom. I greeted her, planting a gentle kiss on her cheek. She looked stunning as always. At 65, She still carried herself with an air of grace and style that her friends half-jokingly claimed was the result of a pact with the devil. "Your father's by the fireplace," she directed, her eyes already roving the room for other prominent guests. "Do say hello before you sneak off to the library." Navigating through the crowd, I received the usual air kisses and polite questions about my little job at the library. Many of these people had watched me grow up alongside their children and still couldn't grasp why I chose my path. "There's my girl," my dad's voice boomed as I neared. He was surrounded by his usual entourage of golf buddies and longtime business associates. "Come here, let them see you," he beckoned, drawing me into an enthusiastic hug. I could tell by his slightly slurred words that he had started celebrating early. "Still buried in those books, eh?" Peter Hughes remarked with a tone that belittled my profession. "Yes, still preserving knowledge for the next generation," I replied, maintaining my composure. Their laughter followed, the indulgent kind reserved for what they perceived as harmless eccentricities. Speaking of the next generation, my dad interjected proudly. "Where's your brother? He's got some big news." As if on cue, Walter appeared, champagne in hand and dressed in an even more lavish suit, his Rolex gleaming under the lights. "Everyone," he called out, ensuring he had the room's attention. "I'd like to make an announcement." The room fell silent, all eyes on him. Walter always relished being the center of attention. "As some of you know, Thompson Industries has been expanding rapidly," he began, his voice full of confidence. "Today, I'm thrilled to announce that we are about to make our biggest acquisition yet. By next week, we will own Lawrence Tech." Applause filled the room. My dad beamed with pride, and my mom dabbed her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I took a sip of my champagne, waiting patiently. "Of course," Walter continued, "the deal isn't final yet, but my sources assure me it's only a matter of time. The papers are ready to sign." "That's wonderful, son," my dad exclaimed. "Always knew you had it in you, a real businessman, just like your old man." As Walter basked in the applause and congratulations, his eyes eventually found mine. "What do you think, little sister?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. "Ready to admit you backed the wrong horse?" I met his gaze calmly. "I think," I said carefully, "that you shouldn't count your chickens before they hatch." He laughed, and others joined him. "Always so cautious. That's why you'll never be more than what you are, hiding in your library, while the rest of us build empires." Perhaps, I agreed mildly. But at least I understand the value of due diligence. His eyes narrowed slightly. Walter never liked it when I used terms he deemed too intellectual, viewing it as a challenge to his smarts. "Due diligence," he scoffed. "I've got the best lawyers in the business. Everything's taken care of." I just smiled and raised my glass. "Then, I guess you'll see tomorrow, won't you?" My tone hinted at something more, causing a frown to crease his forehead. Before he could question further, our mom called everyone to dinner. The dining room was a vision of old-world elegance, gleaming mahogany, priceless china, and crystal that had been in the family for generations. As we moved towards the dinner, I felt a mix of anticipation and satisfaction. Tomorrow would indeed be interesting. Taking my seat at the far end of the expansive dinner table, I couldn't help but chuckle silently at the seating arrangement. Clearly, I was tucked away from the evening's esteemed guests, a subtle snub that didn't escape my notice. As the appetizers were served, Walter dominated the conversation at the other end, boasting about his business acumen. I engaged minimally, offering polite responses when necessary. Otherwise, I focused on the delightful cuisine. Beside me, Mrs. Hughes leaned in, her voice low with a hint of bewilderment. "You were so bright in school, Melissa. You could have been anything. Why devote your life to books?" I paused, knowing that in just a few hours, everything about how she viewed me could change. But for the moment, I remained the understated librarian. "Books are far from a waste," I explained calmly. "They teach us to see beyond the surface, to understand that things aren't always as they appear." She shook her head, clearly unsatisfied with my response. "Well, at least your brother is carrying on the family legacy," she sighed. "It must be difficult to watch him succeed while you, linger in his shadow. It's not as tough as you might think, I replied, a subtle hint of amusement in my voice. Dinner continued with a mix of subtle jabs and backhanded compliments. I had become adept at letting such remarks slide off me, like rain off a slicker. As dessert was served, Walter stood up to make another announcement, his glass raised high. Here's to Mom and Dad, who taught me everything about the business and showed me what success looks like. He paused, his gaze shifting towards me. And to my sister, who, well, shows that not everyone is cut out for the business world. The room emitted a polite chuckle. I toasted along with them, my mind racing ahead to the documents set to alter the course of Thompson Industries and my press release scheduled for the morning. Later, Walter cornered me by the dessert table. Enjoying the party, he smirked. It's lovely, I replied, masking my anticipation. Mom and Dad must be thrilled. They are, he boasted, adjusting his tie. Though it would have been nice if both their children had turned out successful. I selected a chocolate truffle, examining it as if it held the secrets of the universe. You know, Walter, success isn't always about who makes the most noise. He snorted dismissively. No? Tell that to my bank account. How much does a librarian make these days, anyway? Enough to buy these shoes, I replied, glancing down at my carefully chosen footwear. I'm good with money, you know. He finished his champagne in one gulp. Well, this has been fun, but I've got people to see and deals to close. Big day tomorrow with that Lawrence deal. As he walked away, I pulled out my phone and quickly texted Lauren. Everything ready for tomorrow? Her reply was instant. All set. The press release goes out at 8 a.m. sharp. Want me to send you the final numbers? No need, I replied, a smile playing on my lips. I'll see them in the papers along with everyone else. The party wound down around midnight, and as I made my rounds of goodbyes, I endured one last volley of condescending remarks about my career choices. You really should consider Walter's offer, my mother suggested as I kissed her cheek goodbye. A corporate library would be so much more suitable for you. I'll think about it, I lied smoothly, knowing full well my path lay in a different direction. As I drove home, I contemplated the seismic shift that the next day would bring. For 8 years, I had built my empire in secret, while my family regarded me as the disappointing daughter who chose books over business. Tomorrow, they would discover just how wrong they had been. The next morning, I arrived at the library at 7 a.m., as I had done every day for the past 8 years. My sensible shoes echoed through the marble halls, a familiar sound to the early morning regulars who never questioned why the head librarian maintained such meticulous hours. Lauren was already there, her tablet in hand. Here in the library, she was my assistant librarian. Outside these walls, she was the COO of Thompson Global Partners and one of the sharpest business minds in the industry. Lauren greeted me quietly as we entered my office. Everything's ready, she said, her voice low and efficient. The lawyers are assembling in Osaka, and the press release is scheduled to go out in 50 minutes. I placed my bag on the desk and powered up my secure laptop. Any word from Walter's team? I asked, knowing they were also aiming to close the Lawrence deal this morning. They're setting up now, still confident they'll seal the deal, she informed me, a trace of a smirk on her face. I couldn't help but smile, picturing Walter's shock once he learned the truth. Let's give them a few more minutes of hope. At precisely 7:15 a.m., my private line rang. It was Mr. Lawrence's translator. Miss Thompson, everyone is ready. Excellent, let's proceed. The next few minutes were a whirlwind of signatures and official confirmations. By 8 a.m., Thompson Global Partners had officially acquired Lawrence Tech, securing its subsidiaries, patents, and advanced technology divisions. Press release is going out now, Lauren announced. I opened several news tabs on my laptop, watching as our story hit the headlines across various platforms. Breaking: mystery buyer acquires Lawrence Tech. Global finance giant Thompson Global Partners reveals identity of founder. Wall Street stunned as library sciences expert named as business mogul. My phone buzzed relentlessly. The first call, unsurprisingly, was from Walter. What the hell is this? he blurted out without preamble, his tone a mix of confusion and outrage. "Good morning to you too, brother," I replied calmly. "I take it you've seen the news." "This is impossible. Thompson Global Partners, that's not. You're not the founder and CEO." "Actually, I am. Have been for 8 years now. Though I understand your confusion. After all, I'm just a librarian, right?" I could almost hear his brain working overtime, the sound of papers rustling frantically in the background. "But I had a deal. The paperwork was ready." "Was it?" I asked innocently. "You might want to check the fine print. Lawrence Tech has been in play for months. We've just been waiting for the right moment to finalize things." "We." His voice cracked. "Who's we?" "My team. My company. My empire." I paused with each declaration, letting the reality sink in. "You know, the one I built while you were busy underestimating my career choices." The line went dead. Lauren, trying not to grin too broadly, looked at me with anticipation. "How long until my parents call?" I asked. She glanced at her watch. Right on cue, my mother's number flashed on my screen. Melissa Hannah Thompson. Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "What have you done?"
Good morning, Mom.
"I'm a bit busy at the moment, but perhaps we could discuss this over dinner?" "Dinner? Do you have any idea what's happening? Your father's phone hasn't stopped ringing. The Hugheses, the club, everyone is calling, wanting to know how our librarian daughter secretly built a multi-billion-dollar company." I could hear my dad in the background, trying to field calls of his own. "Tell her to get over here right now," he demanded. "I have meetings all day." I responded, which was indeed true. The acquisition of Lawrence Tech was just the beginning. "But I'd be happy to host everyone for dinner at my place tonight. Say 6 o'clock? Your place." Mom's voice dripped with skepticism. "You mean that little apartment near the library?" "No, I mean my penthouse on Calm Avenue. I'll text you the address." There was a lengthy pause. "Calm Avenue? But that's the most expensive building in the city." "Is it? I hadn't noticed." "See you at 6, Mom." After ending the call, I took a deep breath. 8 years of secrets were out in the open. 8 years of meticulous planning and maintaining a facade while building something truly monumental. "Ready for Phase 3? Lauren asked. I nodded. "Send out the second press release." This one was even more significant than the first. Thompson Global Partners announces merger with East Asian tech giants, deal valued at $70 billion. The merger had been in the works for months, a strategic play that would further solidify our position on the global stage. We timed it impeccably to coincide with the Lawrence acquisition. By the time my family arrived for dinner, the business world would be left stunned by two of the largest deals of the decade, both masterminded by someone they had long underestimated, the quiet librarian. The day unfolded in a series of meticulously planned activities, including meetings, interviews, and strategic sessions. I gave a single interview to the Wall Street Journal, where I shared how a background in library sciences was, surprisingly to many, the perfect preparation for building a global empire. "Information is power," I told the reporter, a statement that resonated deeply with my librarian roots. By 7:10 p.m., I left the public facade of the library behind and headed to what was truly my domain, the top-floor penthouse on Calm Avenue that had been my actual home for the past 6 years. Although I maintained a modest apartment near the library to preserve appearances, it was here in the penthouse where my life's real work took place. My private elevator opened into a sprawling space that dwarfed Walter's corporate headquarters, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the sea, and technology that connected me to my operations globally. Lauren had arranged for dinner to be catered by the city's top restaurant, another asset under the Thompson Global Partners umbrella. The dining room was set with the sort of understated elegance that whispered of old money and deep pockets. At precisely 6 p.m., my family arrived. Walter was the first to step out of the elevator, his swagger replaced by a barely contained fury. Mom and Dad followed, both appearing shell-shocked. Even Roy, the faithful butler, seemed at a loss, struggling to reconcile the image of the family's underachiever with the reality of one of the city's most affluent individuals. "Welcome to my home," I greeted them, gesturing towards the expansive view. How long? Walter demanded, his voice tense. How long have I been lying to you? I clarified, moving towards the bar to pour myself a scotch. I haven't lied about anything. I am a librarian. I do love books. I also just happen to run a global financial empire. But why? Mom collapsed onto one of the Italian leather sofas, bewildered. Why the deception? Why let us believe that I was a failure? I finished for her, handing her a drink. Maybe because you never looked beyond your assumptions. You saw what you wanted, a disappointing daughter who chose books over business. Dad stood by the windows, staring out at the city. All this time, he murmured. All those companies, the mysterious acquisitions, that was you? Thompson Global Partners, Walter said flatly. The competition everyone's been trying to figure out. The shadow empire that's been reshaping the market. I couldn't help but smile. It does have a nice ring to it. However, I prefer to think of it as a knowledge empire. After all, isn't that what you taught me, Dad? Knowledge is power. He turned, looking at me with new eyes, respect replacing the usual frustration. The Lawrence deal, he said slowly. How long have you been planning that? About 8 months, I explained. Though I've owned a controlling interest in their subsidiaries for over a year. Walter's face changed from anger to disbelief. You've been playing me all this time. Not playing, Walter. Competing. Isn't that what you always wanted? A real contest to prove who's better at business? But it wasn't fair, he exploded. You had inside information, secret resources. Inside information? I laughed, the sound echoing around the plush room. You mean like the kind you brag about getting from your golf buddies? The deals you close on private yachts and at exclusive resorts? No, Walter. I built my empire with nothing but intelligence, hard work, and an understanding of how crucial information flows. Setting my glass down with a soft clink, I looked around at my stunned family. This empire was built on skill and strategy, not just capital and connections. It's not just about who you know, but what you know and what you do with that knowledge. At the small library that shaped my intellect, I gained an advantage not obvious to others. One evening at dinner, amid palpable tension, my mother observed our luxurious surroundings, noting my apparent affluence. My father, lost in thought, seemed to be reevaluating his past business decisions. Breaking the silence, my mother commented on the elegant dinner setting, linking it to my lavish spending. I lightheartedly redirected her focus to the essentials. My brother Walter, clearly uneasy, questioned my future business moves. I proposed a partnership, explaining that his company needed modernization and a global perspective which I was ready to provide. Although surprised, my father supported the idea, recognizing it as an opportunity for Walter to engage in something significant. As dinner progressed, it became a moment of revelation and reconciliation. I shared the journey of building my company, leveraging my time at the library as a perfect cover. Walter's initial skepticism shifted to admiration and engagement in our potential partnership. Towards the end of the evening, my mother questioned why I chose to reveal everything now. I explained the importance of showing that success doesn't always conform to traditional symbols like suits and luxury watches. Walter added that it's also a reminder not to judge superficially. After everyone left, I reflected on the evening with Lauren, my confidant. The stocks were up, indicating positive market reactions. We planned to officially announce the merger soon, hoping by then Walter would fully embrace this new collaborative approach. This evening was not just a dinner, but a turning point, challenging old perceptions and paving the way for a new understanding of success. I reflected on the emotions of that moment, my mother's tearful expression of regret and my father's beaming pride as he truly recognized me for the first time. They were starting to understand that achieving success doesn't always match our expectations. The following day, I entered the library at the usual time. The familiar faces were all in their usual places, casually greeting me, their cherished librarian. Even though my face had been featured in every major business magazine across the country, their demeanor toward me hadn't changed. This was perhaps my most significant triumph. In a world preoccupied with appearances and prestige, I had built something authentic, something that stood on its own without the need for designer brands or societal endorsements to validate its importance. I was still the same librarian, still passionate about books, yet now I was also a billionaire. After all, knowledge comes in various forms, and sometimes the most influential individuals are the ones you least anticipate.
The scent of vanilla and warm butter filled my bakery as I pulled another batch of croissants from the oven. 6 years of early mornings, burnt fingers, and endless recipe testing had turned sweet success from a desperate dream into the most popular bakery in town. Now my husband wanted me to give it all away. I'm Samara, and until yesterday, I thought I had the perfect marriage. Honey, it's a family tradition, Calvin said, leaning against my steel workbench as I aggressively kneaded dough. When a Richards gets married, the whole family pitches in to help them start their new life. Your sister got a car for her wedding, I replied, flour dusting my arms. Your cousin got a down payment for a house. I'm being asked to hand over my entire business. Ivan has always wanted to run his own place. I slammed the dough down harder than necessary. Ivan has never worked a day in his life. He doesn't know the first thing about running a bakery. He's my brother, Samara. He's family. The bell above the door chimed, and my best friend Serena walked in, her heels clicking against the tile floor. One look at my face, and she knew something was wrong. What's going on? She asked, setting her purse on the counter. Calvin straightened his tie. Just discussing Ivan's wedding gift. I need to head to the office. He kissed my cheek, but I turned away. Think about it, honey. Family first, right? The moment he left, I grabbed a mixing bowl and hurled it into the sink with a crash. Serena jumped. Okay, spill, now. He wants me to give Ivan my bakery, I said, gripping the edge of the counter until my knuckles turned white. As a wedding gift. He what? Serena's jaw dropped. Please tell me you're joking. I wish. I grabbed a rag and wiped down the counter, trying to keep my hands busy. Apparently, it's a family tradition to help newlyweds start their lives. Never mind that I started this place from nothing. Never mind that I worked 2 jobs to save up for the equipment. Never mind that I nearly killed myself perfecting these recipes. What did you tell him? That I'd think about it. I tossed the rag aside and started boxing up a customer's order. What else could I say? He's been talking about nothing but Ivan's wedding for months. You could say, hell no, Serena suggested, snatching a chocolate chip cookie from the display case. This is your life's work, Sam. You can't just hand it over to someone who thinks baking is just throwing ingredients in a bowl and hoping for the best. The bell chimed again. Mrs. Peterson, one of my regulars, walked in with her granddaughter. I forced a smile and handed them their usual order, 1 dozen snickerdoodles and 2 blueberry muffins. Your cookies saved my bridge club meeting last week, Mrs. Peterson said, beaming. Everyone wanted your recipe. Family secret, I replied with a wink, watching them leave. The word family felt bitter on my tongue. Serena hopped onto the counter, ignoring my disapproving look. So, what are you going to do? I started preparing the display case for tomorrow's opening. I don't know. Calvin's right about one thing. Family is important. But this place, it's not just a business. It's part of who I am. Then don't give it up. It's not that simple. I paused, a thought forming. Unless what? Serena leaned forward, recognizing my plotting face. Unless I agree to give it to him, on my terms. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the business license documentation. Calvin wants me to help Ivan start his new life? Fine. But first, let's see if dear brother-in-law can handle the responsibility. Serena's eyes widened. What are you planning? I smiled, already drafting an email to my lawyer. I'm going to give Ivan exactly what he wants and exactly what he deserves. Later that night, I told Calvin I'd do it. His face lit up like a child on Christmas morning as he hugged me tight. You won't regret this, honey. Ivan will make you proud. I hugged him back, thinking about the conditions I'd already started drafting with my lawyer. I'm sure he will, dear. I'm sure he will. As I lay in bed that night, listening to Calvin's steady breathing, I thought about all the early mornings, the failed recipes, the burns and cuts and tears that went into building my dream. If Ivan wanted my bakery, he'd have to prove he deserved it. And something told me that process would reveal exactly what kind of man my brother-in-law really was. I smiled in the darkness. Sometimes the sweetest revenge comes with a side of karma. You're doing what? Olivia's voice echoed through her elegant home office. My former mentor set down her coffee cup with enough force to make the desk rattle. Samara, have you lost your mind? I shifted in the leather chair across from her, grateful I'd chosen to confide in her before moving forward. Olivia had been my guide since culinary school, and her business sense was sharper than my best bread knife. It's not as simple as just giving it away, I explained, pulling out the draft agreement I'd prepared. I have conditions. Conditions won't matter if you sign away your life's work to an incompetent fool. Olivia adjusted her reading glasses and scanned the document. Her expression softened slightly. Though this is interesting. I learned from the best. I managed a small smile. Remember when you told me never to sign anything without an escape clause? The doorbell rang, and Olivia's housekeeper announced that Ivan and Maggie had arrived for their scheduled appointment. I'd arranged this meeting under the pretense of discussing wedding cake designs, but my real purpose was far different. Send them in, Olivia called out, giving me a knowing look. Let's see what your brother-in-law is made of. Ivan strutted in like he owned the place, Maggie trailing behind him with an apologetic smile. She was sweet, if a bit naive, and I couldn't help wondering if she knew what she was getting into. Samara! Ivan's enthusiasm felt forced. Calvin told me the good news. I can't wait to take sweet success to the next level. That's actually why I wanted to meet, I said, gesturing for them to sit. Since you'll be taking over, I thought we should discuss your vision for the bakery. Oh, totally. Ivan loosened his tie. I'm thinking we modernize everything. Get rid of all that homemade stuff and bring in pre-made bases. Way more efficient, you know? Plus, we can cut half the staff and save on labor costs. I watched Maggie's face fall slightly. Olivia's pen scratched against her notepad. Pre-made bases? I kept my voice neutral. Our customers come for the authentic, from-scratch recipes. Trust me, nobody can tell the difference, Ivan waved dismissively. And we'll need to raise prices by at least 50%. This is prime real estate. We should be charging premium rates. Ivan, Maggie interrupted, I thought you said you loved Samara's traditional approach? Babe, this is business. He patted her hand condescendingly. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions to maximize profit. I pulled out another document. Speaking of business decisions, I have the transfer agreement here. Just a few conditions before you take over. Ivan's eyes narrowed. Conditions? Calvin didn't mention conditions. Nothing major, I assured him, sliding the paper across the desk. You'll need to complete a 3-month training period, learning every aspect of the business, pass a basic culinary certification, and maintain our current quality standards and staff for at least the first year. That's ridiculous. Ivan stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I don't need training to run a bakery. It's just following recipes. Then the certification should be no problem. Olivia interjected smoothly. Any competent business owner should understand their product. Don't you agree? Ivan's face reddened. This isn't what we agreed to? Calvin said. Calvin isn't the one giving away her business. I cut in, steel entering my voice. These are my terms, Ivan. Take them or leave them. Maggie, let's go. Ivan grabbed his jacket. We'll discuss this with Calvin. After they left, Olivia turned to me with raised eyebrows. Well, that was illuminating. Did you see Maggie's face when he talked about cutting corners? I asked, gathering my papers. I don't think she had any idea. More importantly, Olivia leaned forward. Did you record all that like I suggested? I patted my phone. Every word. Good girl. She smiled approvingly. Now, about that certification requirement. I have a friend who runs the testing center. Should we schedule it for next week? Make it Monday, I said, standing up. The sooner Ivan shows his true colors, the better. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Maggie. Can we meet tomorrow, alone? I smiled, thinking of her reaction to Ivan's revelations. Sometimes the best allies come from unexpected places. That evening, Calvin cornered me in the kitchen. Ivan says you're being unreasonable with all these conditions. Unreasonable? I stirred the pasta sauce with more force than necessary. Wanting the next owner to understand basic baking is unreasonable? You know what I mean, Samara. This isn't what we discussed. I turned to face him, wooden spoon pointed like a weapon. No, what we discussed was me giving away my business. These are my terms for doing so. Take them or leave them. Calvin's jaw clenched, but he said nothing more. As he walked away, I checked my phone again. Maggie had suggested meeting at a cafe across town, far from any prying eyes. Perfect. The pieces were falling into place, and soon everyone would see exactly what they were asking me to hand over my dream to. The cafe was quiet when Maggie walked in. Her designer handbag clutched tight against her chest like armor. I'd chosen a corner table, away from windows and curious ears. Thanks for meeting me, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. Her engagement ring caught the light, a massive diamond that seemed to weigh down her delicate hand. Of course. I pushed a cappuccino toward her. I ordered your usual. You remember my coffee order? I remember everyone's orders. It's part of running a successful business. Maggie winced at the word business. She opened her purse and pulled out a folder. I found these in Ivan's office last night. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I was looking for stamps and... She slid the folder across the table. Inside were bank statements, loan applications, and rejected credit cards. Red numbers jumped off every page. He's in debt, Maggie whispered. Serious debt. Gambling mostly, and there are letters from collection agencies. Does Calvin know? She shook her head. Ivan keeps telling everyone his investment business is booming, but these, she tapped the papers, these tell a different story. The cafe door chimed. We both jumped, but it was just Serena arriving right on cue, exactly as planned. Sorry, I'm late, she announced, pulling up a chair. Traffic was horrible. Oh, are those the financial records? Maggie's eyes widened. You knew about this meeting? Samara and I don't keep secrets, Serena said, examining the documents, especially not when someone's trying to steal her bakery. It's not stealing if I'm giving it away, I corrected, but my voice was bitter. Though now we know why Ivan's so interested in a profitable business with good cash flow. He's not a bad person, Maggie protested weakly. He's just struggling. Struggling people don't try to take advantage of their family, Serena countered. They ask for help. I was about to respond when my phone buzzed. A text from Calvin. Where are you? Ivan's at the bakery for his first training session. Shit, I muttered. I need to go. Ivan's at the bakery. I'll come with you, Maggie said, standing quickly. I want to see how he handles this. The scene at the bakery was exactly what I'd expected. Ivan stood in my kitchen, wearing an expensive suit instead of the required apron and hairnet, arguing with my head baker, Maria. These processes are inefficient, he was saying as we walked in. We need to streamline everything, cut costs. These processes are what make our products special, Maria interrupted, her arms crossed. Every loaf of bread, every pastry, is taking too long to make. Ivan's voice rose. Do you know how much money we're losing by making everything from scratch? About 60% less than we'd lose if our customers realized we'd switched to frozen dough, I said loudly. Ivan spun around, his face reddening when he saw Maggie beside me. What are you doing here? Supporting my future sister-in-law, she replied coolly. Shouldn't you be learning how to bake? Maria held out an apron. First lesson is bread basics. Everyone starts with bread. This is ridiculous, Ivan sputtered. I'm here to learn management, not play baker. Management starts with understanding the product, I said, moving to the workbench. You can't lead what you don't understand. I understand plenty. Ivan yanked off his suit jacket. I understand that this place could make triple the profit with half the effort if you weren't so stuck in your old-fashioned ways. Maggie flinched. I caught Maria's eye and nodded slightly. She pressed the record button on her phone, just visible in her apron pocket. Why don't you explain your vision for the bakery? I suggested innocently. In detail. Ivan launched into his plans, each word digging his grave deeper. Cutting staff, using cheaper ingredients, raising prices while lowering quality. Maggie's face grew paler with each revelation. And the best part, he concluded triumphantly, is that we can sell off most of this expensive equipment. We won't need it once we switch to commercial suppliers. Interesting strategy, I said calmly. Would you mind writing all that down for the transfer agreement? Why bother? Once the business is mine? Once the business is yours, you'll still be bound by the quality standards clause, I reminded him. The one you agreed to yesterday? Ivan's smug expression faltered. Behind him, Maria's phone kept recording. We'll discuss this later, he snapped, grabbing his jacket. Maggie, let's go. Actually, Maggie said quietly, I think I'll stay and learn about bread making. It seems important. I watched Ivan storm out, then turned to Maggie. You okay? She nodded, picking up the apron Ivan had rejected. Teach me everything, please. As I showed Maggie how to knead dough, I caught Maria's eye again. She held up her phone and smiled. Another piece of evidence secured, another step closer to exposing the truth. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people reveal themselves. You're getting married in 3 days, I said, watching Maggie pipe buttercream roses onto a practice cake. Shouldn't you be at a spa or something? We were alone in the bakery after hours, the streets outside dark and quiet. Over the past week, Maggie had thrown herself into learning everything about baking, staying late into the night. I should be a lot of things, she replied, her hands steady as she created another perfect rose. Excited, happy, not wondering if I'm making the biggest mistake of my life. The timer dinged, and I pulled a tray of cookies from the oven. Having doubts is normal before a wedding. Is it normal to find out your fiancé has gambling debts larger than your annual salary? Or that he's planning to destroy someone else's dream to pay them off? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with an email notification. I nearly dropped the hot tray when I read it. What's wrong? Maggie asked, setting down her piping bag. Someone just tried to access my business accounts. I showed her the security alert. From Ivan's IP address. That's impossible. He's at his bachelor party. I pulled up the security camera feed on my laptop. Not anymore. The footage showed Ivan fumbling with the back door lock 10 minutes ago, finally getting it open with what looked like Calvin's spare key. He went straight to my office. He's still in there, I whispered. Call Serena, tell her to bring the police. Samara, wait. But I was already moving, my phone recording video as I crept down the dark hallway. The light from my office spilled into the corridor, along with the sound of frustrated typing. Come on, Ivan muttered. Where are the account passwords? I flipped on the hallway light. Looking for something? Ivan jumped so hard he knocked over my desk lamp. Samara, I needed to check some numbers for the transfer. At midnight? During your bachelor party? I kept recording as I stepped into the office. Using Calvin's key? Calvin knows I'm here, he lied smoothly. Ask him yourself. Okay. I pulled out my phone and dialed Calvin on speaker. Hey, honey, Calvin answered, club music pounding in the background. Everything okay? Is Ivan with you? Yeah, Calvin paused. Actually, I don't see him. Hey, has anyone seen Ivan? I ended the call, staring at my brother-in-law. Want to try again? You don't understand. Ivan's voice turned desperate. I need access to those accounts. Just for a few days. I'll put everything back before the transfer. Before you steal my business, you mean? I stepped closer. How much do you owe, Ivan? 50,000? 100? 215,000, Maggie said from the doorway, making us both jump. Plus interest. Ivan's face contorted. You went through my private papers like you're going through Samara's? Maggie's voice cracked. The wedding's off, Ivan. I called your brother. The police are on their way. You can't do this to me. Ivan lunged for the computer, but I was faster. I yanked the power cord from the wall as Serena appeared behind Maggie. The police are 2 minutes out, Serena announced, holding up her phone. And I've got the whole thing on video. Again. Ivan looked like a cornered animal. Calvin won't let you do this. We're family. Family doesn't steal from family, I said quietly. And Calvin can't stop me from pressing charges. Blue and red lights flashed through the windows. Ivan made a break for the back door, but crashed into 2 officers coming in that way. Ivan Matthews? One officer asked, though it wasn't really a question. We've had reports of breaking and entering, attempted theft. I watched them lead Ivan away in handcuffs, reading him his rights. Maggie stood frozen in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I had no idea he was this desperate. Serena hugged her tightly. You did the right thing. My phone buzzed again, Calvin calling back. I let it go to voicemail. He'd find out soon enough. After giving statements to the police, we locked up the bakery. The night air was cool on my face as I watched Serena drive Maggie home. Need a ride? Serena called out her window. I shook my head. I think I'll walk, clear my head. As I walked home, I drafted an email to my lawyer, attaching the night's videos. The transfer agreement was dead, but something told me the drama was far from over. My phone kept buzzing with messages from Calvin. Finally, I texted back. We need to talk, not tonight. The wedding was in 3 days. Everything was falling apart. And somehow, watching it crumble felt like watching justice unfold, one painful piece at a time. He made bail an hour ago, Olivia said, pouring more wine into my glass. We sat in her garden, the evening before what should have been Ivan's wedding day. Your lawyer called to warn me. Of course he did. I took a long sip. Let me guess, Calvin posted it? Family first. Olivia mimicked Calvin's tone perfectly. Speaking of your husband, have you talked to him yet? He's been sleeping in the guest room. I twisted my wedding ring absently. Says I betrayed the family by calling the police on Ivan. And you letting Ivan steal your business wouldn't have been a betrayal? My phone lit up with another message, this time from Ivan. You'll regret this tomorrow, I promise. Olivia read the text over my shoulder and snorted. Is that supposed to be a threat? He's desperate. I showed her another message from Maggie. The loan sharks are circling. They've already visited his apartment twice. Not your problem anymore. No, I agreed, but tomorrow's wedding is. Half the town will be there, expecting a celebration. Instead, they're getting a scandal. Olivia leaned forward, her expression serious. Are you still planning to go? I have to. I'm catering, remember? I laughed bitterly. 500 cupcakes already paid for, plus the wedding cake Maggie and I made together. About that? Olivia's eyes sparkled mischievously. I may have an idea. Before she could elaborate, my phone rang. Calvin's face appeared on the screen. I should take this, I sighed, stepping into the house. Hello? Where are you? Calvin demanded. We need to talk about tomorrow. I'm at Olivia's. Ivan wants to make things right, he said, his voice pleading. He's agreed to get help for his gambling. He'll pay back anything he tried to take. Just drop the charges and we can all move past this. Move past this? My voice rose. He broke into my business, tried to steal my accounts, and threatened me. And you want me to just forget it happened? He's my brother, Samara. And I'm your wife. The words exploded out of me. But you were ready to let him destroy everything I've built. Did you know about his debts? About the loan sharks? Calvin's silence was answer enough. That's what I thought. I ended the call, my hands shaking. Olivia appeared in the doorway. You okay? No. I wiped angry tears from my eyes. But I will be. Tell me about this idea of yours. She smiled, pulling out her tablet. First, we need to call Maggie. Then we're going to need access to the wedding venue tonight. 3 hours later, I stood in the empty reception hall with Maggie and Serena, surveying our work. Are you sure about this? Maggie asked, adjusting a display card. It seems intense. More intense than finding out your fiancé is a gambling addict who tried to steal his sister-in-law's business? Serena countered. Point taken. My phone buzzed again. Another threat from Ivan, this one more explicit. Tomorrow's going to be a day everyone remembers. Hope you're ready for some public humiliation. He's planning something. I showed them the message, probably during the reception. Let him try, Serena said, gesturing to our preparations. We're ready. Maggie touched the wedding cake, her expression sad. I can't believe I almost married him. You deserve better, I said, hugging her. Someone who values more than just money. Speaking of money, Serena pulled up a news article on her phone. Look what just got published online. The headline read, Local business owner thwarts attempted corporate theft. Family drama unfolds. How did they get this? I asked, scanning the article. Anonymous tip. Serena winked. The whole town will know by morning. Perfect timing, Olivia said from the doorway, making us jump. She held up a stack of documents. The judge just signed these. You're officially protected from any retaliation. I took the restraining order, feeling its weight in my hands. Think we're ready for tomorrow? Honey, Olivia smiled wickedly. They won't know what hit them. Later that night, as I packed up the last of the cupcakes, my phone lit up one final time. A message from Calvin. Whatever you're planning tomorrow, please don't. For me. I typed back 3 words. For me first. Then I turned off my phone and headed home to get some sleep. Tomorrow would be a day everyone remembered. All right. Just not in the way Ivan was expecting. The church buzzed with whispers as I arranged the last cupcake display. Everyone had seen the news article by now, and the tension was thick enough to cut with my pastry knife. They're still going through with it, Serena reported, hurrying over in her bridesmaid dress. Ivan convinced Maggie's parents that the article is all lies, called it a misunderstanding between family members. Of course he did. I straightened a crooked cupcake. Where's Maggie? Locked in the bridal suite. Says she's getting ready, but... Serena glanced around and lowered her voice. Everything's in place? I nodded. Just waiting for the right moment. Samara. Calvin's voice made me stiffen. He stood behind me in his best man's suit, looking uncomfortable. Can we talk? Now? Really? Please. He grabbed my arm, pulling me into a quiet corner. Whatever you're planning, don't. Ivan's already agreed to drop the whole business transfer idea. We can all just move on. Move on? I yanked my arm free. Like you moved on from telling me about his gambling debts? Or how about the loan sharks who visited our house yesterday looking for him? Calvin paled. How did you? Our security cameras work just fine. I smoothed my dress. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a wedding cake to finish setting up. Don't do this, he called after me. Some things are more important than business. You're right, I turned back, like trust, respect, honesty, all the things you and Ivan seem to have forgotten. The church doors burst open. Ivan stormed in, his tuxedo rumpled, his eyes wild. Where is she? The bride's not supposed to see the groom before the ceremony, someone called out. Not Maggie, Ivan snarled, pointing at me. Her. We need to talk. Now. Actually, Olivia's voice rang out as she entered through the side door. The only people Mrs. Richards needs to talk to are the police officers who just arrived to discuss your violation of the restraining order. Two uniformed officers appeared behind her. Ivan's face contorted. You think you're so clever, he spat, but I know things about your precious bakery that would destroy its reputation. Like what? I asked calmly. The health code violations you tried to plant yesterday? Already cleared up with the inspector. Or maybe the fake reviews you paid for? Removed this morning. Ivan lunged forward, but Calvin grabbed him. Brother, stop! You're making things worse. Let him go, I said quietly. Let everyone see exactly who they're here to celebrate. The officers moved closer. Ivan shrugged off Calvin's grip and straightened his jacket. Fine. He smiled nastily, but I still have one card to play. Maggie! The bridal suite door opened. Maggie stepped out in her wedding dress, but instead of walking toward Ivan, she moved to stand beside me. Sorry, Ivan, she said, her voice steady, but I'm not your card to play anymore. What's going on? Calvin looked between us, confused. Show them. Maggie nodded to Serena, who pulled out her phone and connected it to the church's projection system. The screen lit up with security footage. Ivan breaking into my bakery, his confession about using the business to pay off debts, his threats. Then came the loan shark footage, showing Ivan and Calvin discussing how to pressure me into the transfer. The church erupted in gasps and murmurs. Ivan's parents stood up, their faces ashen. Turn it off, Ivan demanded. This is my wedding day. No, Maggie said firmly. This was supposed to be our wedding day, but you turned it into a con game, just like everything else in your life. She pulled off her engagement ring and set it on a nearby pew. You can't do this to me, Ivan's voice cracked. I'll be ruined. You did this to yourself, I replied, the moment you decided my dream was worth less than your debts. The officer stepped forward again. Mr. Matthews, we need you to come with us. Violating a restraining order is a serious offense. As they led Ivan away, Calvin grabbed my hand. Samara, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how bad it was. I just wanted to help my brother. I pulled my hand free. We'll talk about this later. Right now, there are 500 people here expecting a celebration. But there's no wedding, he said. No, Maggie smiled, linking her arm through mine. But there is a party, a celebration of truth, justice, and really good cake. The tension in the church broke as people laughed. Music started playing, not wedding music, but something upbeat and liberating. As I watched Maggie hand out cupcakes to disappointed wedding guests, I caught Olivia's approving nod from across the room. Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in getting even, but in standing up for what's right. And speaking of sweet, I had a wedding cake to serve. The reception hall hummed with conversation as I stood behind the cake table, watching the aftermath of our revelation unfold. What should have been a wedding reception had transformed into something entirely different, part scandal, part celebration of truth. "Another piece, please." Maggie's mother approached, still in her mother of the bride outfit. "I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is the best non-wedding I've ever attended. Try the raspberry layer," I suggested, cutting her a generous slice. Maggie made it herself. "She did?" Her mother's eyes welled up. "I had no idea she was learning to bake." "She's learned a lot these past few weeks." I glanced over at Maggie, who was laughing with Serena by the punch bowl, her wedding dress replaced with a sleek blue cocktail number. "About baking, about herself." "About choosing better men," her mother added dryly. A commotion at the entrance drew everyone's attention. Calvin burst in, his face flushed. "Ivan's being processed downtown," he announced, making his way to me. "They're charging him with violation of the restraining order, attempted theft, and corporate espionage." "Corporate espionage?" someone asked. The health inspector confirmed it. Olivia stepped forward, tablet in hand. "Ivan bribed him to plant violations at Sweet Success. Unfortunately for them both, I recorded their entire conversation." Calvin's face crumpled. "I swear I didn't know about that part." "But you knew about the rest," I said quietly. "The gambling debts, the loan sharks, the plan to use my bakery to bail him out." "I was trying to protect my family. I am your family." The words exploded out of me, silencing the room. "Or did you forget that when you decided my dreams were worth sacrificing for your brother's mistakes?" "Ladies and gentlemen," Serena's voice cut through the tension, "the video presentation is about to begin." The lights dimmed and the projector flickered to life. On screen, security footage showed Ivan's late-night break-in attempt, followed by clips of him bragging about his plans for my bakery. Then came the footage that made Calvin stumble backward. Him and Ivan planning how to pressure me into the transfer. "That's enough," Calvin pleaded. "Turn it off." "No." I stepped out from behind the cake table. "Everyone needs to see exactly what family first really meant to you both." The final clip played, Ivan threatening me in the bakery, his face contorted with rage as he detailed how he'd destroy everything I'd built. When the lights came up, Calvin looked destroyed. "Samara, please." "Save it." I held up my hand. "You had choices, Calvin. At every step, you could have chosen differently. You could have told me the truth. You could have helped Ivan get real help. Instead, you chose to betray my trust." "What are you saying?" I pulled out an envelope. "I'm saying I've had these divorce papers ready since the night Ivan broke in. I was waiting to see if you'd finally choose me." The room collectively gasped. Calvin staggered like I'd physically struck him. "You don't mean that," he whispered. "We can work this out." "Can we?" I gestured around the room. "Look at what your choices have already cost. Your brother's freedom, Maggie's happiness, my trust, our marriage. I'll make it right," he promised desperately. "Whatever it takes." "It's too late." I placed the envelope on the cake table. "You can't fix betrayal with promises, Calvin. Some things, once broken, can't be put back together." Olivia stepped forward, placing a supportive hand on my shoulder. "I think it's time for the final announcement." I nodded, turning to address the room. "Sweet Success isn't just my business, it's my life's work. And as of this morning, it's officially protected by a corporate trust. It can never be transferred without unanimous approval from a board of directors." "Who's on the board?" Calvin asked weakly. "Olivia, Serena, Maggie." I smiled at each of them in turn. Women who understand the value of dreams and the importance of protecting them. The room erupted in applause. Maggie's mother hugged me, tears streaming down her face. "You saved my daughter from making a terrible mistake." "Actually," I hugged her back, "she saved herself. We all did." Calvin picked up the divorce papers, his hands shaking. What happens now? Now? I looked around at the room full of people who had come expecting a wedding and instead witnessed a revolution. Now we celebrate, because sometimes the best endings aren't the ones we planned for, but the ones we fight for. I picked up the cake knife and began cutting slices for everyone. Each piece represented something different now. Not a celebration of marriage, but a toast to truth, courage, and the sweet taste of justice served just right. The morning sun streamed through Sweet Success's windows as I unlocked the door, breathing in the familiar scent of vanilla and possibility. The bell chimed behind me as Maggie entered, already wearing her apron. "Ready for your first official day as partner?" I asked, handing her the spare set of keys I'd had made. "Partner?" She repeated the word like a prayer. "Still can't believe this is real." "Believe it." I pulled out the signed partnership agreement. "You earned this, not just with the amazing recipes you've created, but with your integrity." The door chimed again. Serena and Olivia walked in, carrying champagne and orange juice. "You can't start a new chapter without mimosas," Serena declared, setting up glasses on the counter. "And paperwork," Olivia added, producing a folder. "The judge signed off on everything this morning. Ivan's plea deal requires full restitution of his gambling debts and mandatory counseling." "And Calvin?" Maggie asked carefully. "Signed the divorce papers yesterday." I touched my bare ring finger. "He's moving to his parents' beach house. Said he needs time to reflect on his choices." "Speaking of choices," Serena grinned, "wait until you see today's paper." She unfolded the local newspaper, revealing a full-page feature about Sweet Success. The headline read, "Rising from the Ashes: How One Woman's Stand Against Family Pressure Created a Community Legacy." "They interviewed your customers," Olivia pointed out. "Look what Mrs. Peterson said." I read aloud, "Sweet Success isn't just a bakery. It's proof that standing up for yourself can be the greatest act of love, both for yourself and for others who need to see it done." The bell chimed again. Maria arrived with the rest of the morning crew, all wearing new aprons emblazoned with our updated logo. "Sweet Success, where dreams rise." "The first batch of orders just came in," Maria announced, waving her tablet, "including one from the mayor's office. They want us to cater the city's Small Business Award ceremony." "The one where you're receiving the Woman Entrepreneur of the Year award?" Serena added casually. I nearly dropped my mimosa. "What?" "Surprise!" Maggie squealed. "We nominated you weeks ago. The committee was especially impressed by how you handled the recent family situation with grace and professionalism, while still serving the best pastries in town." Maria added. The morning sun caught the crystal glasses as we toasted, creating tiny rainbows across the counter. Outside, customers were already lining up, pressing their faces against the windows to peek at today's offerings. "Before we open," I said, pulling out a small box, "I have something for you, Maggie." She opened it to find a delicate gold necklace with a tiny whisk charm. "It's beautiful. Read the engraving." Maggie turned over the charm, tears welling up as she read. "Sometimes the sweetest success is saying no to the wrong thing. And yes to the right ones," she finished, hugging me tight. The door chimed one final time. Calvin stood there, holding a stack of mail. "These came to the house," he said quietly. "Thought you might need them." I took the letters, noting his red eyes and rumpled clothes. "Thank you. I'm heading out of town today. Just wanted to say..." He glanced around at my support system, my chosen family. "You've built something amazing here. I'm sorry I ever made you doubt its worth." "Sometimes," I replied, thinking of Mrs. Peterson's quote, "we need to lose something to understand its true value." He nodded, understanding the gentle dismissal. As the door closed behind him, Maggie squeezed my hand. "Ready to open?" I looked around at my bakery, at the display cases Maggie and I had filled together, at the wall of customer photos Maria had arranged, at the women who had stood by me when everything threatened to crumble. Actually, I smiled, I think we need one more toast. Serena refilled our glasses as I raised mine. To sweet success, not just in business, but in choosing ourselves, in standing our ground, in recognizing that sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we're born into. To fresh starts, Maggie added. To unbreakable bonds, Serena chimed in. To women supporting women, Olivia finished. The glasses clinked as the morning sun bathed us in golden light. Outside, the line of customers grew longer, but for this moment, time stood still. I unlocked the door, flipped the sign to open, and breathed in the scent of possibility. Today wasn't just another day at the bakery. It was the first day of everything we'd fought to protect, everything we dared to dream, and it smelled like success.
At least change your clothes before anyone sees you. Victoria pulled me aside in the hallway of the funeral home, her voice low but sharp. You look like you don't even have a home. I can't stand next to you like this, especially not today. This is our grandmother's funeral. She stepped back and looked at me again, clearly unhappy. Her black designer dress was perfectly pressed, her jewelry matched beautifully, and not a single strand of her hair was out of place. She looked exactly like someone who belonged in a magazine. Then she leaned closer and added quietly, "This is why Mom says you'll never succeed. You can't even look decent for one day." I didn't reply. Instead, I looked down at what I was wearing. My old coat, my loose trousers, and my worn-out boots. I had owned them for years. They weren't just clothes to me. They were part of my journey. But Victoria never cared to understand that. Without saying anything, I walked to the back of the chapel and sat where no one would notice me. I didn't want to embarrass my family any further. But something strange happened. I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I knew something she didn't. Months later, at one of the most exclusive Fashion Week parties of the year, everything changed. The room was filled with important people, designers, editors, celebrities. Victoria stood confidently among them, holding a glass of champagne, waiting for her moment to shine. Then it happened. Her glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble floor. She had just watched something she couldn't believe. The editor-in-chief of Vogue had walked right past her, completely ignoring her, and came straight toward me. "Elena," she said warmly, wrapping me in a hug. "Your fall collection has completely changed how we see sustainable fashion. We want you on the September cover." Her words spread through the room like a wave. Victoria stood frozen, her hand still stretched out from when she had tried to greet the editor. "I'm sorry," she said slowly, her voice shaking. "Did you say the September cover?" The editor turned slightly, looking confused. "I'm sorry, have we met?" Victoria swallowed. "I'm Victoria Morrison, Elena's sister." "Oh," the editor replied calmly. "Elena has never mentioned a sister." The silence that followed felt louder than any noise in the room. What Victoria never understood was that my homeless look was never an accident. It was a choice. For 15 years, I had been building a different kind of fashion, one that didn't depend on trends or fast consumption. While she chased luxury brands and changing styles, I focused on creating something lasting. I worked with vintage fabrics. I rebuilt old materials. I designed clothes meant to last decades, not just a season. The coat I wore to the funeral? It was my first serious design. I made it during my time in graduate school using old military fabric. I had worn it for 8 years straight. It had become my signature piece. It had even appeared in magazines Victoria read all the time. But she had never noticed. Because she only saw what she expected to see. To her, I was still the same failure she had decided I was years ago. My journey into fashion hadn't been planned. I had once followed the path my parents chose for me, a business degree. But I left it behind and joined a small art school to study textile design. My family was furious. "You're ruining your future," my mother said. "That's not a real career," my father added. Victoria laughed. "Give her 6 months. She'll come back." 6 months turned into 15 years. My first opportunity came from Japan. A small boutique in Tokyo discovered my work at a student exhibition and ordered 12 pieces. That small order opened doors to many more. Within 3 years, my designs were being sold across Asia and Europe. But I never told my family. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because their opinions no longer mattered to me. The only person who ever truly believed in me was my grandmother. 3 years before she passed away, she showed up at my studio in Brooklyn all by herself at the age of 84. She hadn't told anyone. She just arrived with a suitcase and a smile. "Show me everything," she said. I showed her my work, my fabrics, my designs. I explained my ideas, how I wanted to create fashion that didn't harm the environment, that lasted for years. She gently touched my coat and smiled. "This is what you were meant to do," she said. "I've known since you were a child." "Mom thinks I'm wasting my life," I told her. "Your mother believes success looks like your sister's life," she replied softly. "But she's wrong." Before she left, she held my hand tightly. "Keep going," she said, "and stop hiding. When I'm gone, don't let anyone make you feel small." At her funeral, Victoria's words hurt, not because I believed them, but because she chose that moment to say them. I stayed quiet. I stood in the back. I left early, but no one noticed something important. At the edge of the cemetery, a small group of women stood together. They had come for my grandmother. They were from some of the most powerful fashion publications in the world. My grandmother had written to them after visiting my studio. She had told them how proud she was of me. One of them said before leaving, "Your grandmother was amazing. She made us promise to feature your next collection." 6 weeks later, I launched my fall collection. I named it Eleanor, after her. It included 32 pieces inspired by her wardrobe from the 1950s, rebuilt using sustainable materials, designed to last another lifetime. The response was overwhelming. Magazines covered it. Luxury stores placed orders. Celebrities showed interest. And finally, I received an invitation from Vogue. That night at the Fashion Week party, Victoria finally saw the truth. Not the version of me she had created in her mind, but who I had actually become. The meeting about the September cover had to be done in person. So I went, wearing the same coat Victoria had once mocked at the funeral. I paired it with trousers from my own collection and the same boots I had worn for years. I looked exactly like myself. Victoria, on the other hand, had spent weeks trying to get into that party. She didn't work in fashion. She worked in pharmaceutical marketing, but she had convinced herself that Fashion Week could be her way into a more glamorous life. She had worked hard for it. She made calls, asked for favors, and even bought an expensive dress she couldn't really afford. Finally, she managed to get an invitation to an event where she didn't know a single person. Her plan was simple. She would introduce herself to editors, talk about branding ideas, and present herself as someone with fresh perspectives. She had prepared everything, what to say, how to say it, even who to approach. But there was one thing she hadn't prepared for. Seeing me. Seeing the sister she thought had failed, being hugged by one of the most powerful women in fashion. When her champagne glass shattered on the floor, people turned to look. Victoria stood there, surrounded by broken glass, her confidence falling apart just as quickly. "You're a designer?" she finally asked, her voice unsteady. "Since when?" "Since 15 years ago," I replied calmly. "When I left business school and started studying textiles." She stared at me. "But, you never told anyone. Mom and Dad don't even know." I stopped talking about my career to people who had already decided it was worthless, I said. "You told me I'd fail in 6 months. Why would I share my success with someone waiting for me to lose?" Her expression changed again and again. Shock, confusion, embarrassment, maybe even regret. "The September cover," she whispered. "That's the biggest issue of the year." "I know." "I don't understand," she said. "How did all of this happen without anyone knowing?" "It didn't happen without anyone knowing," I answered quietly. "The people who mattered knew. You just never paid attention." Margaret had been watching the whole conversation silently. Finally, she stepped forward. "Elena, shall we find somewhere quieter to discuss the shoot?" "Of course," I said. Then I looked at Victoria one last time. "Enjoy the party," I told her gently. "The food is actually very good." And then I walked away. The meeting with Margaret was calm and focused. We talked about everything, the photo shoot, the schedule, the creative direction, the story they wanted to tell. "Your work isn't just fashion," she explained. "It's a statement. Sustainability, longevity, and your grandmother's influence. That's what people need to understand." "You want to include my grandmother in the article?"
I asked. If you're comfortable, she said.
The letter she wrote to us was incredible. She believed in you deeply.
I felt my throat tighten. She was the only one who did, I said softly. Margaret smiled.
Then we'll make sure the whole world understands now.
Across the room, I could still see Victoria. She had cleaned up the broken glass with help from a server. She tried to continue talking to people, but something had changed. Others had seen what happened. They saw the editor ignore her. They saw me being welcomed.
They understood that whatever story Victoria had been telling about herself wasn't real.
She left early. I stayed until everything was finalized. 3 days later, my mother called. Victoria had told them everything. Why didn't you tell us? My mother asked.
All these years, you never said you were successful. Would you have believed me?
I replied. There was silence. Of course we would have, she said finally.
You told me fashion wasn't a real career, I reminded her. Dad said I was ruining my future.
Victoria said I would fail. We were just worried about you. No, I said calmly. You dismissed me.
That's different. That conversation opened wounds we had ignored for years. My mother admitted she had been afraid I would struggle.
My father had been disappointed I didn't follow his advice. And Victoria?
She's been crying for days, my mother said.
She should, I answered.
She called me homeless at our grandmother's funeral. She didn't know.
She didn't ask, I replied.
She decided who I was and treated me that way. Can you forgive her?
I can accept that what she did was wrong, I said. But forgiveness needs accountability.
And she's never taken responsibility before.
6 weeks later, the photo shoot happened. The feature was 12 pages long. My designs were shown on models who truly understood the meaning behind them.
The article explained everything, my work, my philosophy, and the story of the Eleanor collection.
They even printed my grandmother's letter. My granddaughter has created something extraordinary, it said,
even if her family failed to see it. Reading those words, in the very magazine Victoria had always admired, gave me a kind of peace I didn't expect.
After the issue was released, Victoria asked to meet me. We chose a small cafe near my studio. She arrived holding the magazine.
I read it 3 times, she said. The article and grandmother's letter.
She hesitated. I've been a terrible sister, she admitted quietly.
I studied her face.
What made you realize that?
The magazine, or the way you treated me before you knew I was successful.
She looked down. Both, she said. But mostly the party. Watching someone ignore me, and choose you instead. It made me realize how wrong I was. She paused.
I was so sure you had failed, that I never even looked for proof that you hadn't.
You never asked about my life, I said.
Not once.
I know, she whispered. I was afraid.
Afraid that you might be happy, without following the same path I did.
We talked for 2 hours.
For the first time, she explained herself honestly.
Her fears.
Her insecurities.
Her belief that my choices somehow judged her own. I did everything the right way, she said. Business school. A stable job. A safe life.
I followed all the rules.
Her voice broke.
And then you just left, and built something beautiful. You could have built something too, I said.
Not now, she replied.
I have responsibilities.
A family.
A career I can't just walk away from. Then build something within that life, I told her. But stop resenting me for building mine.
We didn't fix everything that day. Some things don't heal that quickly. Victoria had spent years looking down on me.
And I had spent years protecting myself from her judgment.
Trust doesn't come back overnight.
But for the first time,
we were at least trying. But something had changed.
Not suddenly, not completely, but enough to notice.
Victoria started asking questions. Real questions.
Not the kind people ask just to be polite, but the kind that come from genuine curiosity. She wanted to know about my work, how I design my pieces, what inspired me, and what I planned to do next. For the first time in years, she was actually trying to understand me. She began reading articles about my collections. When new features came out, she didn't skip past my name anymore.
She even started telling her daughter about me.
Your aunt is a designer, she would say, with a quiet kind of pride. And one thing I noticed most, she never again made a comment about my clothes. The following year, in September, my second Vogue cover was released. This time, the feature included something deeply personal. A photograph I had kept private for years.
It was a picture of my grandmother in my studio.
She was standing beside me, her hand gently resting on the coat she loved so much, the same coat I had worn to her funeral. Her face was full of pride, her eyes shining in a way I would never forget. After the issue came out, Victoria called me. "She visited your studio?" she asked softly. I didn't know.
"No one did," I replied.
She wanted that moment to be just between us. There was a pause. "She saw everything you built?"
Victoria asked.
"Yes."
Another silence, longer this time. "I'm glad," she said finally.
"I'm glad someone in the family understood." It was, perhaps, the kindest thing she had ever said to me.
I still kept that outfit. The coat. The trousers. The boots.
The same ones Victoria once called homeless.
I never stopped wearing them.
They became part of who I was. I wore them to interviews, to events, even on red carpets. They appeared in photographs, in magazines, in moments that defined my public life. They became my signature.
Because to me, they were never just clothes. They were a story. My grandmother understood that.
She understood that some clothes are more than fashion. They carry meaning, memory, and identity. Mine told the story of a woman who built something quietly, without applause, while her own family wasn't paying attention.
A woman who stayed true to herself.
A woman who honored the one person who believed in her, through fabric, through design, through every piece she created.
I still remember that day at the funeral. Victoria telling me I looked like an embarrassment. Telling me to stand at the back so no one would see me. Looking at me as if I had nothing. And then,
months later,
at the most important fashion event of the year,
watching as the editor-in-chief of Vogue walked past her and came straight to me. "Your collection has changed everything," she said. "We want you on the September cover." And in that moment, everything shifted. For 15 years, I had been building something real.
Something meaningful. While my family believed I had failed, my grandmother had been the only one who saw the truth. She came to my studio. She wrote letters. She believed in me when no one else did.
Her words were printed in that first Vogue feature. "My granddaughter has created something extraordinary, even when her family failed to notice." And eventually,
Victoria did notice.
Maybe too late to change the past.
But not too late to change herself.
As for me,
I still wear that coat. The one she once laughed at.
Because it tells my story. And I will never hide that again.